Karibu mtazamaji mpendwa kwenye runinga yako unayoipenda na kuienzi ya Culture Hub TV kwenye kipindi cha Kilimo ni Mali. Leo hii tunaenda kuzungumzia kuhusu kilimo cha nyuki. Nilivyokueleza wiki lililopita kuwa tunaenda kukuelimisha na kukufunza mengi zaidi kuhusu kilimo cha nyuki. Na leo nimetembelea Mabanga FTC ambapo kuna mafunzo mengi zaidi kuhusu ukulima bora, na hapa ninaye mwelekezi wetu ambaye anaenda kutueleza mengi zaidi. Utatueleza unaitwa nani na unafanya kazi gani hapa kwenye Mabanga FTC?
Asante sana. Kwa majina naitwa Phyllis Wekesa, na simamia upande wa nyuki katika hii wizara ya kilimo ya Mabanga, na pia huwa nasimamia kwa kuku. Asante.
Naam, mwelekezi wetu Phyllis, utatueleza kwa yule mkulima ambaye ama mtazamaji ambaye anatutazama leo hii ambaye ananuia kuanza mradi wa ufugaji wa nyuki, anafaa kuwa na nini ama ataanzaje ukulima wake wa ufugaji wa nyuki?
Okay. For the farmer who wants to start beekeeping, he must have a piece of land where he will settle those bees. Also, the siting for the apiary, we make sure also water and nectars, pollen are around, because those are the feeds for those bees. So for a start, remember those bees just require little piece of land so that you can be able to keep those bees. Then also availability of water must also be around. Then also flowers and pollen. So the first thing, bees are very, very important to keep. I'll encourage majority of farmers to start bees, because bees, those production of honey can act as a source of income, then can be medicinal purposes. Then also remember those bees are good pollinators for many, many crops. So they are very, very important. Then lastly, remember those bees when you start can generate a lot of money as you sell the honey. Thank you.
Na kwa yule mtazamaji ama kwa yule mkulima ambaye ananuia kuanza mradi huu wa ufugaji wa nyuki na hajui mahala ambapo ama ni vipi anavyofaa kuunda mzinga wake ama penye atapata zile nyuki ili awaeke kwenye huo mzinga, utamweleza vipi?
So that one is talking of bees. So we shall start first. You must have those beehives. We have so many types of beehive. So it will depend with the farmer himself or herself type of beehive he wants. First we have the Kenya top hive. We have the lock hive. We have the langstrap hive. Then we have the box hive. For instance, in Mabanga ATC, we normally have that Kenya top hive and box hive. The one that is being seen is the box hive. That is where we started. We first found the hive. Then first we used what we call swarming of the net, whereby we normally have the wire. That wire we normally connect with the ring. Then we put on a bamboo stick. That bamboo stick we normally now come with the super net. You come with super net, then you swarm on it. After swarming on it now, that one normally just happen when the bees are maybe up the tree. Then that one that may be just on the ground or somewhere else in a house, we normally use what we call a catcher box. A catcher box is a situation whereby we normally have the empty small hive, whereby we put at the side where those bees are. Then we have those old combs we normally put in that small hive. Then the wax also just to attract those bees to enter the hive. After entering the hive, now we take the catcher box we normally go and place where now the main hive is. Then for a start, maybe when we want to mount that hive on a tree, we normally say keep distance between that hive with the tree. Don't put it direct. We normally just hang it using just a binding wire or just a normal wire. Reason being, remember this hive when it is just mounted on the tree direct, those ants may enter in the hive. Maybe they may they may enter in that hive, and then maybe that during of maybe picking that hive, it may rot, or it may allow some maybe water inside the hive. So it is very, very important to hang the hive on a tree, but don't put direct.
Sasa kwa yule mkulima ambaye ulikuwa unanuia kwanza huu mradi, at least leo umejifunza 1, 2 jinsi utakavyopata nyuki wale na jinsi unavyofaa kuwachukua, ili kama uko nao kwa nyumba ama wamewekwa mahala fulani kwa mti wenyewe walikuja hapo, unaweza tumia hiyo njia ili ukaweze kuwapeleka mahala pema ili uweze kuwafuga vizuri na upate mazao yako. Nao mwelekezi wetu Phyllis, na unaweza tueleza hawa nyuki huwa mnawalinda vipi baada ya kuweka kwa beehive?
Thank you very much. Hizi nyuki tukiweka kwa beehive, in the starter I said you must lay in a place where maybe there are those flowers or there's water and then there's nectar. For us, we don't feed the bees direct. They are the ones searching for this. We have the worker bee. The work of the worker bee is just to collect nectar, water, and for instance, those flowers. We can only provide maybe when there is no availability of flowers around, whereby we take that sugar syrup, we put near the hive for them to feed on. But for us, we don't feed bees direct. It's just the work of the worker bee to collect those nectar, water, and those pollen. Then for also that worker bee is very, very important because it's the one that protects any intruder going around the beehive. Then also it's the one to clean the hive. But we don't feed direct, madam.
Sasa unaweza tueleza kuna magonjwa ama nini, kuna magonjwa ambayo huwa yanaathiri hawa nyuki ama pia nao ni resistant?
Kuna magonjwa ambayo huwa inaathiri nyuki. Kwanza kabisa tuko na 2 types of bees that we normally rear. So we have the wild bee, then we have African wild bee. For us in ATC, we normally rear African wild bee. So that African wild bee we normally rear with so many reasons. One, they are well adapted in favorable weather condition. Then number 2, they have the whiter wings that normally helps to flap. Maybe during in the hive, when the temperature is high, as they flap or as they flap with the higher speed, then that air normally circulates inside and then controls the hive. Then number 3, that African wild bee, normally for instance worker bees, they normally go for long distance searching for those nectars and pollen. Remember, maybe they are not around, then they can just fly because they normally goes to long distance. Then they are at least resistant to diseases. They are not like the African bees. So these bees, we normally put them in a place called a colony. A colony is just a piece of bees, a group of bees came together so that they can be able to raise. We have the queen, then the drone, then we have the worker bee. The queen is the one that normally lays eggs in that apiary. The queen normally lays eggs for a day. It can lay eggs like 1,500 to 2,000. That normally depends with proper feeding. If you don't feed them properly, remember now that disease may occur. We have some 2 types of disease that normally affect the bee. One, we have what we call African fall brood. This one that normally just affects the young ones of the bee. That's an African fall brood. Then we have Apiary, Acarive. Apiary, that is the disease that also normally affects the hive. And that one normally just occur maybe when the bees, due to poor proper feeding of those bees. But when you feed them well, remember that disease, that wild bee, they are resistant to diseases. You will not be able to maybe to see or those diseases to occur.
Sa unaweza muhimiza vipi yule mtazamaji ama yule mkulima kuendea ama kufuga aina gani wa nyuki ambao wana mazao mazuri?
For the start, nimesema we have 2 types of bees, that is African wild bee and European bee. So I prefer for a farmer to keep of wild bee. Reason being they are resistant to diseases. They can adapt favorable water condition. Remember, the queen bee can only lay eggs when maybe the weather can favor them. If not, they will not lay. And remember, those queen normally just lay once maybe by year or rest of its life. So that is why we normally recommend at least a farmer who may start with African wild bee. And remember, maybe nectars are not around and you are not able to produce maybe that sugar syrup. It is very, very difficult for a farmer maybe to buy. That is why we normally use that African wild bee, because they can move for longer distance searching for those nectars and also pollen. Thank you.
Naam, umeongelea kuhusu magonjwa ambayo yanaathiri hawa nyuki. Ni njia ipi ama ni mbinu ipi ambayo huwa mnatumia ili kukinga hawa nyuki waepukane na hayo magonjwa?
Thank you, madam. For us, we normally just make sure there's proper feeding of those bees. Remember, those African fall brood and apiary, they normally just result to poor feeding. So remember, I have said, if there is no maybe water around, nectars around, and pollen around, flowers around, what we shall provide water syrup or sugar syrup that maybe these bees will use for meantime as we are searching for those flowers or nectars around. Because we can only start that beehive when there is availability. I said availability of pollen, availability of water. Then when we are starting that, you must put away from homestead. Remember, those bees, they can maybe timber with your family members. They must be away from homestead. And then lastly, you must put on a sheltered place. Remember, for us, when you see, we have put all those hives at a sheltered place. Reason being, remember when you put it direct with the sunlight, those maybe those honey, when they have started maybe to be made, those honey will start to melt. That is why we normally recommend a farmer to put maybe under the shade. Very, very important.
Naam, mwelekezi wetu, unaweza tuambia hawa nyuki huchukua muda upi ndio waanze kutoa asali?
Asante sana, madam. Hawa nyuki ina depend how you feed them. They can only take just like 4 months. Then you start harvesting the honey. So it will depend. We said if there is no maybe feeds around, provide with that water, sugar syrup. Because if we don't provide, remember, those bees will be affected with diseases. And those diseases, if they are being affected, remember, there is no production will be made. That is why we are recommending that, please, if there is no nectars, flowers around, you please provide that sugar syrup. Remember, for bees, we cannot feed like fish. For them, maybe they normally just feed for themselves. Thank you.
Namna kwa yule saa mkulima ambaye anataka kuanzisha huu mradi, anafaa kuwa na pesa ngapi ili aanze huu mradi wote wa ukulima wa nyuki?
That one will depend with the farmer, because we have that farmer maybe will just start with 1 beehive. Kuna mwingine anataka kuanza na 10, kuna mwingine anataka kuanza na maybe 20. It will depend with the farmer. But for now, I cannot put the amount, because maybe when the farmer wants, maybe that knowledge will come kwa Wizara ya Kilimo ya Mabanga, will advise him or her.
Na kwa yule mkulima bado ambaye anataka kuanza huu ukulima wa nyuki na hajawahi ona nyuki karibu, ama hajui mahali ambapo atapata hawa nyuki, unaweza mwelekeza ama unaweza muhimiza vipi?
Asante sana, madam. The thing that I will encourage that farmer maybe just to come at Mabanga ATC, because maybe around the place he have never encountered about the bees. So it is very hard for me to explain for him or her something he had never seen before. Because if maybe it is around there, I can advise how maybe using 2 methods of stalking bees. But if they are not around, madam, it's very, very difficult for me to encourage such a farmer. Just maybe to urge him or her just to come at Mabanga ATC, so that first I'll teach him or her how to raise bees or to keep bees after then, so that we shall know how to stock for him bees.
Hii asali baada ya kuharvest, muna soko maalum ambayo mnapeleka ama mnauza asali yenu ama ni vipi?
Before nipeleke soko hiyo asali, we normally what we call processing now that honey. Because remember, I have just carried the honey with the combs. So I must now process so that I can get honey before I now sell my honey. So we know we have three methods of extracting that honey. One, we have heat and melt method. Then number two, we have crush and strain method. Then lastly, use of centrifugal extractor. Use of centrifugal extractor, we normally encourage that farmer who is in a large scale. But small scale, we use just two methods, heat and melt. Then lastly, crush and strain. Heat and melt is whereby now I'll take my water and the sufuria, I put on heat. When it starts boiling, now I put in enamel resin on top. I take my container, I put inside. So it will melt until I see my honey now have melted completely. Then I'll now remove that container, I put down. Then after putting down, I'll now remove those wax inside now the container. Now I'll just remain with my honey before I can now sell. Then crush and strain is a situation whereby you must have that enamel resin. After having that enamel resin, I'll have the muslin cloth, whereby now I'll put those combs, then I squeeze them. After squeezing them, that honey will start dripping on that container. After dripping on that container, now I'll remain only with my honey. Then I'll start marketing. Marketing we normally just do locally, or I can sell to industries. For instance, I can sell locally for just human consumption. Remember, I said earlier on, it can be used as a medicinal purposes, or it is a source of energy as a feed.
At least umeweza kutuelimisha mengi zaidi kuhusu ufugaji wa nyuki. Na uliposema hapo awali, mi nimeona kuna asali nyingine huwa thick na nyingine inakaa majimaji, kumaanisha yenye inakanga majimaji si original asali ama inekwa maji mingi ama ni vipi? Unaweza tueleza hapo?
Thank you, madam. So that one normally just happen with the method of extracting. And remember also the farmer himself or herself. Remember, even also a cow when you milk, there is that farmer will just milk and sell that milk direct. Then we have that one that will at least put some water inside. So also it is the same scenario with the honey. The honey, remember, when you just extract it itself, it is thick. It is not having some maybe light or having some water inside. So that one normally depends with the farmer. Remember, as a source of income, somebody is just after maybe earning something. So you must make sure that that thing at least is big enough to generate her at least some income.
Na tukimalizia, Bi Phyllis, unaweza kutueleza ni changamoto zipi ama ipi ambayo nyinyi hupitia kwenye ufugaji wa nyuki?
Asante sana, madam. Changamoto ni mingi. Kwanza, for instance, when I want to stock my bees, I must use the catcher box. Maybe I don't have that hive, or maybe I don't have beehive around. So I'll walk a long distance, going maybe to the forest to search for these bees before I do what we call stocking. Then remember, number two, maybe those bees, during dry season, there is no availability of flowers, there is no, maybe sometime we normally have challenge when the power goes, there is no water around.
Na unaweza mueleza vipi yule mkulima ambaye ananuia kuanzisha huu mradi, ama unaweza muencourage vipi?
The bees are good and they normally generate a lot of income, and they just require just as little piece of land.
Asante sana Madam Phyllis. Nakwambia leo tumesoma na tumepata mawaidha mazuri sana kutoka kwa mafunzo yako ya ukulima wa nyuki. Naam, mkulima na yule mtazamaji ambaye umekuwa ukifuatilia kipindi hiki cha kilimo cha ukulima wa nyuki. Natumai umejifunza mambo mengi zaidi kuhusu jinsi ya kuanzisha mradi wako wa ufugaji wa nyuki, na mpaka hadi mwisho unavyo harvest nyuki wako na kupeleka sokoni. Usikose kuendelea kufanya ama kujiingiza kwenye kilimo cha nyuki, kwa sababu kina manufaa mengi zaidi kwa jamii yako. Moja ni asali bado ni dawa, na bado asali inaleta income ama ina generate pesa mingi, na inakuwezesha wewe kama mkulima kupata mapato mazuri ili ukaendeleze familia yako, kuwapeleka shule kupitia njia ya ukulima wa nyuki. Natumai utaendelea kutufuatilia kwenye Ukulima ni Bora. Usisahau kusubscribe, kulike, kushare na kucomment kwenye kipindi chetu cha Kilimo ni Mali kwa Culture Hub TV. Nimekuwa wenu Charity Barasa. Hadi wiki lijalo, endelea kufuatilia kipindi chetu.